It's why is the government wanting to check children's genitals before they play soccer in 6th grade? It just
That's
seems
just
like
called a physical, Jack. That's a physical.
It just seems like complete overreach. So what? Any parent can come down from the stands, and if you're like hitting too many threes in the middle of a game, they.
This is a big issue. This is not a small issue where it's just Republicans and conservatives picking on the trans kids. I personally believe that if a 16-year-old girl sees a penis in a locker room, that is a big deal, even if it's just one. You have women being sexually assaulted. This is a big deal. This is not something.
Well, all right. I will say, hang on. I'll give Jack a chance to reply here.
Let me finish.
All right.
And to claim that people who want to protect girls, 16-year-old girls, just want to check penises when all you got to do is check a birth certificate. The officer still here. He was charged and he was acquitted. Why was he acquitted, Jack? Why was he acquitted? If what you say is true,
was Jonathan Ross able to move out of the way?
The legal standard, according to Graham versus Connor, is that the perception of a reasonable officer on the scene rather than 20/20 vision or hindsight. That is how use of force must be judged.
It's time, ladies and gentlemen. We got to react to this video between this left-wing hack, Jack Cocchiarella. I don't know how the hell you pronounce his name. It's a dude who just looks like a regular white guy, and Greg Foreman, aka the Great Black Conservative Perspective. So, of course, you already know how this went down. Greg freaking destroyed this man. He cooked them. It was brutal. Yeah, they talked about topics of whether or not men should play in women's sports and be in women's locker rooms and little girls' locker rooms even, as well as this tragic ICE shooting where they're trying to nail this ICE officer to a cross, a guy who had internal bleeding after being hit by a car, and yet they're still trying to call him a murderer for not allowing this woman to run him over and kill him. Without further ado, let's go ahead and react to this. By the way, guys, there's a new feature on YouTube where you can hype videos, so be sure to like the video, hype the video. It helps out a lot. Appreciate you.
The Supreme Court heard a case concerning the future of trans athletes in America.
Why is the government wanting to check children's genitals before they play soccer? It's just government overreach.
How many 16-year-old girls need to see penises in locker rooms? How many women need to lose gold medals for Jack to understand that this is a big issue?
The right wing is obsessed with young girls. It sounds like you're making a really compelling case for Pam Bondi to stop blocking the release of the Epstein files.
What is sex, Jack?
Can you give us an answer to the question, what is a woman?
Just a ridiculous question.
We're going to talk about the tragic shooting of Renee Good in Minnesota.
What is more tragic is the fact that you have leftists and the liberal media lying and gaslighting to the American people about what happened here.
The officer had his phone out. So clearly, when I'm in a scary situation, I like to record like a Karen.
She was being an agent of chaos. What she did led to her own death.
I think that is hyperbolic and inflammatory rhetoric. Would you agree that nobody should attempt to interfere with ICE operations?
No.
The entire international economy is at stake. What could go wrong? Hey guys, I'm Brad Palumbo here with a new series of this. Found that nearly 7 in 10 Democratic-leaning voters oppose biologically male-born athletes competing in women and girls sports. That's a level of bipartisan consensus you don't see very often.
I don't think Kamala Harris spent even a dime in her campaign messaging that this was going to be the central civil rights issue that she cared about the most.
Right, of course not. Why would she talk about something if she sees that 70% of people don't support it? That would be a stupid thing to do.
But it's a sanity test, Jack, and it's one that a lot of people perceive Democrats to be failing. It's just basic common sense in biology that they're openly defying.
I think that there are plenty of rules and regulations. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, vetoed a bill having to do with greater government intervention in sports in middle school and high school. It just seems like if there's a common sense component to this, it's why is the government wanting to check children's genitals before they play soccer in 6th grade?
That's just called a physical, Jack. That's a physical.
It just seems like complete overreach. So what? Any parent can come down from the stands, and if you're like hitting too many threes in the middle of a game, they can just like start to question you. It doesn't really make a lot of sense from a common sense perspective that this is what a political party would be wholly obsessed with spending all their time. It's just government overreach. And I think that's the common sense issue here. The NCAA.
Leftists love to pretend like they don't understand things. It is just extremely annoying. This guy knows exactly what everybody's talking about here. You want to go check people's genitals? Well, technically, you don't need to, presuming that you use the correct paperwork if you have male or female. If it's just biology, if it's gender ideology, then you might have to start checking people's genitals because you don't know what they got. But if you just go based off of biology only, okay, male, let's see, do they have a penis when they're a baby? Yes, male. If they had a vagina, then it's female, and just leave it at that.
I want to bring in Greg here. Tell us your take on this.
Yeah, so I love when progressives make these fake libertarian arguments as if they actually believe in small government. They don't. In this situation, I mean, let's talk about the Supreme Court and the question that is actually being answered here. Before we get into how ridiculous this dude is when it comes to some of his statements, it is extreme ideology. It is common sense. The Supreme Court is basically answering the question of what is sex and does it matter in sports? The answer to those questions are obvious. Clearly, sex does matter, and sex is defined based off biology, not based off gender ideology, which is clearly what this guy believes in. Because obviously, if there was a definition of sex that essentially included whatever somebody feels, then that will undermine the whole purpose of Title IX, okay? And they'll also undermine the whole purpose of women's sports. So you have to have a clear definition of sex in order to have women's sports in the first place. So it really is about defining what is fair and what is not fair. It's not discrimination. Nobody's picking on trans kids. We're simply just enforcing common sense. Now, I'm not sure how many 16-year-old girls need to see penises in locker rooms. How many women in prisons need to be raped? How many women need to lose gold medals in championships for Jack to understand that this is a big issue? This is not a small issue where, it's just Republicans and conservatives picking on the trans kids. I personally believe that if a 16-year-old girl sees a penis in a locker room, that is a big deal, even if it's just one. You have women being sexually assaulted. This is a big deal. This is not something.
Well, all right.
It sounds like
hang on. I'll give Jack a chance to reply here.
Let me finish.
All right.
And to claim that people who want to protect girls, 16-year-old girls, just want to check penises when all you got to do is check a birth certificate.
Boom.
Really shows you how these individuals lack common sense. They are detached from reality. There's a reason why this is an 80-20 issue. Actually, you know what? I don't even believe that. The only 20% that actually agree with this lunacy, they're just saying it because they don't want to be called transphobic. It is a 95-5 issue. Everybody knows that it is unfair for biological boys to compete against biological girls in sports. Everybody knows this, but they can't acknowledge it. Democrats can't acknowledge reality because they do too much pandering to far-left extremists who are a very small minority, but they're very loud. They're very loud in the Democrat Party. So this
Greg, I do need to give Jack a chance.
I do have to jump in here.
If Democrats want to double and triple down on lunacy, if they want to double and triple down on being detached from reality, if they want to double and triple down on 16-year-old girls seeing penises in locker rooms,
so you keep making,
all right, give Jack a chance to reply because
it sounds
you
like
said a
you're
lot of
making
things.
a really compelling case for Pam Bondi to stop blocking the release of the Epstein files if you seem so concerned. Because I just want to make it clear, there have been more sexual misconduct allegations against Donald Trump than there are openly transgender college athletes. So if you're carrying...
You're the one that tried to deflect to the Epstein files as if this has anything to do with it.
I don't think that's a deflection. I think it's a real issue of people's safety.
I'm pretty sure that Midas Touch and your handlers coached you on to do that, right? Oh, deflect to the Epstein files if he actually starts speaking common sense. That's what you leftists do. Has nothing to do with the subject. So yeah, let's talk about what I actually want. I want women to have a choice, okay? I want women to not have to compete against biological males. I want women to not have to be exposed to penises in locker rooms. I want women to have their rights. If you want to stand against women's rights, go for it. Be my guest.
So Jack,
but transgender athletes can have a choice to compete in a third category. They don't want to do that. Nobody is opposed to transgender athletes competing against themselves, competing amongst themselves, or based off their biological sex, which is why, by the way, since we're talking about Supreme Court case, and again, I want to keep this legal, okay, not purely ideological, but legal. They're also talking about whether or not this is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, right? No, it is not, because trans is not its own protected category like race, okay? It's not a special thing ultimately they're not being discriminated against. They can compete based on biological sex. And if given an opportunity, they can compete in co-ed. Again, if women have a choice if they want to compete, or if they want to compete based off, being trans or whatever, they compete on themselves.
All right, Greg, I get what you're saying.
I have a quick question, because you seem very passionate about women's sports. Could you name me 5 female national champions over the past year in 5 different sports? You care very deeply about this issue.
That's irrelevant to the actual case.
But you care really deeply about the issue.
Okay, no, Jack. Let me ask you a question that's actually relevant.
So
to the
you
case.
can't.
Caitlin
Clark is not playing anymore, so you can't say that.
What do you define as sex?
Well, you didn't answer my question. I thought you cared very deeply about women's sports. It seems to be motivating a very emotional argument that you're making. There's not a lot of.
Guys, I'm going to reclaim the floor here. I understand your point, Jack. It is a bit of a gotcha because you don't have to actually be a fan of women's sports or follow it closely to believe it should exist as a separate category.
But that seems to be central to the argument. Is you're caring about? It's not even women's sports. You said fairness in competition.
What is sex, Jack? That's central.
I am curious, Jack. Can you give us an answer to the question, what is a woman?
I would really like to first get an answer on any national champion. I did ask the question first. Again, Caitlin Clark, Iowa.
Okay,
I don't think South Carolina won last year.
What is sex? What is sex, Jack? Can you answer the question? What is a woman? Define it.
I don't know why you have to continue to ask just a ridiculous question.
Relevant to the topic, the court case
Greg,
that you don't want to deal with, because you
let me hone in on this. Greg.
I'm not arguing emotion. I'm arguing legal. What is
Jack,
sex?
I do think this is a question Democrats have to have an answer for. And when it comes to, is it policing? We have Title IX that says women and female sports must exist as a separate concept. It's legally mandated at colleges. So then you do have to have a legal definition and dispute over what is a woman and what is female. So what is your answer to that question? What is a woman?
I think that that's something that should be left up to these individual institutions. I think that not in terms of some broader definition. If we want to, pull up Merriam-Webster, we're more than happy to go for it. But I'm just, again, surprised that conservatives continue to come back to this question as if it's the.
This dude said, you need to pull up Merriam-Webster. Look, I gotta skip it. Let me get to the part where they're talking about this ICE situation.
Right. Is you don't murder people in cold blood without and your trial is just flat out execution in the street. There's no reason for you to murder someone if you're saying they shouldn't obstruct. If you're saying don't obstruct or you'll be arrested, then that's an admission that you should arrest people rather than killing them.
Was the officer struck?
Does he have any injuries? Did he walk away?
No, that's not the question. Was he struck by the vehicle? Yes or no?
He fell over.
Was he struck? Yes or no?
He wasn't.
Or he was struck.
But was
Greg, I actually, so I want to be clear.
Life or death, though?
Let me finish. So he was struck, right?
I'm not sure we know that conclusively. I'm not sure we know that conclusively. There's multiple camera angles that show different footage.
And the camera angle that was showed on this channel shows that he was struck.
Extremely blurry.
Okay, but it doesn't. But what I'm trying to tell you that regardless, he was struck.
That's a powerful leg to be hit by a, what did you say, 19-ton vehicle and come out unscathed?
The ICE agent was struck. And even if he was not struck, at least directly, I think that's the argument that you guys are trying to make. That he was grazed a little bit. It doesn't matter from a legal perspective. The legal standard is the perception of the officer. Did he have a reason to believe?
No.
Did he have a reasonable belief that car, a multi-ton vehicle, coming towards him was a deadly? Do you believe that a multi-ton vehicle is a deadly weapon, potentially deadly weapon?
You're saying two different.
No,
things.
I'm not. Do you believe that a multi-ton vehicle is a deadly weapon?
There's been a lot of yelling. Maybe
you. Greg, give him a chance. Give him a chance to answer. Greg,
there's been a lot of yelling, and I think you've said two very different things. I think you have said the officer's perception, which is different from what is legally substantial. What is the truth of the matter?
The standard is based off Connor and Graham and Connor. Do you understand that? Do you understand that case?
Greg, give him a chance to answer. Give him a chance to answer, Greg.
Still hasn't finished speaking. If the officer is able to move out of the path of the vehicle, then there is no need for deadly force. He was able. Is the officer still here today?
That's just not true. That I just showed you a case in Ohio, Jack, where the officer.
No.
The officer. Listen, the officer still here. He was charged and he was acquitted. Why was he acquitted, Jack? Why was he acquitted? If what you say is true,
was Jonathan Ross able to move out of the way?
What?
Was he able to move out of the way
Yes, he was able to move out of the way. He shot her.
Thank you. Then you agree.
But how did shooting her help him evade the vehicle, Greg? How did shooting her help him evade the vehicle?
Was he shooting a cartoon bazooka? Is this an episode of Tom and Jerry?
No, listen. What you're arguing has
I've been listening. You're just yelling
what
a
you're
lot.
arguing has absolutely nothing to do with a legal standard. I'm trying to argue legal standards. The legal standard, according to Graham versus Connor, is that the perception of a reasonable officer on the scene rather than 20/20 vision or hindsight. That is how use of force must be judged. Furthermore, when you talk about Tennessee versus Gardner, quote, a significant threat of death or serious physical injury to the officers or other, that is when deadly force is justified if the suspect, again, poses a significant threat of death or serious physical injury. We're talking about Supreme Court cases that have decided this. I gave you guys a case that was almost identical, and you continue to run around it and not address the fact that that officer was acquitted.
Guys, this is the same old tired leftist brain arguments. There's all kinds of freaking gymnastics and backflips and cartwheels that this guy is going to perform to never admit that anything was done wrong by Renee Nicole Good, excluding the fact that she pulled up and blocked the road, excluding the fact that she ignored the officer's commands, excluding the fact that she literally struck the officer by trying to flee or whatever the hell she was trying to do. All of those things together are why she was put in that situation. Then what they're trying to do is blame the officer for firing multiple shots. And I mean, they would come up with any and everything. But the fact of the matter is, this woman should not have been there. And we all know that. And this leftist Looney Tune is going to defend any of the radical left Democrat talking points. He's probably a paid shield. This guy, I mean, I've never heard of this particular guy before. I have seen him. And every single time I've seen this guy in debates, he gets absolutely annihilated. Guys, let me know what you think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm out. Big shout out to my members, Cyber Noodle 655, Bella Scott, and Carpentier John. Could not do it without you.
But it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of what the court precedent has established when it comes to use of force. I've already named Supreme Court cases. I've already given you guys a standard. I've given you examples. I've shown you how officers have been acquitted. Jack, can you give me just one case? Give me one case where an officer was actually found guilty of murder after being struck by a vehicle and using deadly force. Can you give me a case?